Hey, Chio.
All right, what were we talking about?
So we were actually talking about printing options, what real estate agents can do and what the options are for them for different marketing strategies.
Well, let's start with this. I think this is interesting. I mean, yesterday, they had the family reunion event. I haven't been to one in a while. I know it's a very good event. There's a good amount of attendance that's there. Gary Keller put out that deck, and I love the comment that he made on there. And something that I read from Inman yesterday, which was, easy deals are dead. And I think a lot of agents have to kind of start thinking about that, how to start pivoting. It's just like us as a company today, or many companies today right now. It's like, okay, where do we do with AI? Where's AI going? How we see some impact in the real estate space? And, like I mentioned, we want to be the first people to start putting AI into postcards and, print materials and follow-up pieces and things like that. So I think it'll be really interesting that way. However, I do think that, a lot of what Gary Keller and, a lot of people who have vision of, what the industry kind of looks like in the future, um, I think have some sort of like similar visions. What I mean by that is like, is easy deals gone? I think so. I think so for at least a few years until interest rates gets really down, until people feel like they got so much equity. I would love to sell right now, whatever the case is. Yeah, I just think there's just so many variables when it comes to like, people moving and stuff like that. And yeah, we're probably in a stalemate right now. So it's going to be kind of like what we talked about. It's like, yeah, the people who are taking action are going to get the lion's share of the business. And I think that's true. I've been around. I'm pretty sure you have, when it was like, the last crisis. I mean, I'm not even talking about COVID,
2008,
but like
2009.
2008 was like something. And this reminds me about around that same time. I mean, where were you in 2008? Oh,
Oh,
we
that was
both.
your winter. Yeah, in Pleasanton, California. I entered the market at that time, and the agents were used to just putting up a sign and getting 50 offers and closing and not having to actually market themselves or do business. And I agree with the AI automation because what that does is it helps remove some of those mundane, time consuming tasks from our schedule, and it frees us up because when deals are hard, that's time for relationship building, right? All those referrals are coming from people who know and trust you, but if you haven't spent the time with them to build that trust, whereas now all this AI automation frees you up of all those manual tasks and recurring emails and all that, right? In conversations. And now if we can go on our postcards, can you even imagine?
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I think there's so many uses of where AI could really take us. And like you say, just get rid of like some of the redundant tasks. Like the things that like I think back about, like just like the redundant, what I call just redundant tasks before, was just things like having to perfect and understand, like, for example, if I'm featuring property, if I'm listing a home, whatever the case is, I got to know everything about that home, and I got to like repeat that over and over again. It's like you're doing the same sales pitch over and over again. Once you understand the highlights of the home, it's like, okay, I'm going to go through this, make sure I hit these points, whatever the case is, to every buyer. And imagine doing that 50 times and 100 times, 150 times, right?
Be a better way.
Could AI do something? Can we have a conversation about the property? Things like that, stuff that we've been talking about. And that's the thing that's exciting. I think, we're going to come up with our own products, and it's just a matter of time. So,
Can't
I
wait.
love to get more people involved.
Everyone right now got it, but yeah, I just cannot wait until we can share the new product that we're working on.
Yeah. And also, here's the thing that I'm finding, I go out in the field, and I'm meeting more and more agents quite often. And I'm starting to talk to more people, even on the social media side, even people who had such a good referral business that has dwindled. And that's what I'm seeing. Like, in this whole like challenging market that we're in today reminds me of like times when the market's not good. And what happens in a time when the market is not good? And I think that's the realization what a lot of top producing agents know, is that, one, there's a lot of people that can't sustain things like farming, right? There's a lot of people that can't, because maybe they don't have a good business plan. They don't know, where, if I should set aside a budget, whatever the case is, should I wait for the market? Whatever, there's just a lot of that hesitation that's kind of going on right now. It's so much psychological right now. It's like, for everyone that is going to be hungry and going out there and trying to get back market share, those guys I think are going to really excel and being successful.
Well,
I
and
think,
that's agreeing, right? Our top
right.
producing clients, they are doing amazing right now in a very, very hard market.
Yeah, they were doing really well. Matter of fact, I just had someone that had like 10 offers that he was working, right? It's funny because like he just sent me like this postcard. It was like, "Hey, Chio, what do you think about this postcard? I want to try to get this thing out." And I said, "Yeah, that looks great. Let's get this thing out." And he didn't respond for a few hours. And I'm like, man, this guy usually responds pretty quick. So he responds back. He says, "Sorry, I was tied up. I was working. I literally had 10 offers that I'm trying to work through right now. We had a deadline and whatever the case was." So yeah, he's getting multiple offers. But, going back to like,
What is
what
he doing though to get those offers?
well, one, he expanded his farm into a lot of different other neighborhoods, right? He saw that there is maybe an opportunity where in some of these areas that he was marketing, he knows the agents are really consistent in those areas. But he was like, hey, if they're not going to market their own area, why not? I should market that area. As a matter of fact, not just market that area, but I'm gonna expand my own area, my own territory by about 10%. So that was pretty good. I see most people who are producing agents, they're expanding their farm area easily 10 to 15% right now.
What does that look like though? Like how many homes, how many postcards? What is this?
Yes, it really depends. Like a lot of producing agents that I work with probably send close to about 8, 9,000 and some even as high as like 20 plus thousand. Like one of our biggest agents probably expanded his farm from 20, I think 22,000 to about 26,000, right?
Well, when do they mail?
They mail once a month, like clockwork, sometimes twice a month in this market. So, especially around this time of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, this is the thing about like a lot of times when you think about like this time of year marketing, most people know, like I talk to people all the time about this. I said the activities you can pick up, so on and so forth. You want to be more aggressive around this time of year. Q1, Q2, make sure that's where you're most aggressive if possible, right? I still believe the philosophy of mailing once a month, but I do think that if you could afford it and you want to stay more aggressive and you put your brand out there, you want to get more impressions, whatever the case is, then I would probably spend, a few more dollars just to get more mailings out in the first 6 months. That's what I would
What
do.
kind of messaging are they using?
Well, a lot of this is really about positioning them as the expert and leveraging their experience. Because in this market, I think a lot of the people, homeowners, are making a decision that for them to maximize the value and the opportunity for their home is really looking for a real estate agent that has tons of experience. Because those are the agents that are good at positioning a home for sale, anticipating, when the best time to maybe list the home. They also, I would argue, would have a solid marketing plan for that home. So they know how to execute it. It's not just, I'm going to put on MLS and then all of a sudden I get all these deals. It's just not going to happen, right? So they got to have an aggressive plan. And those guys have already built brand recognition in the neighborhood, right? So now on their postcards, they'll put little things like, I've been servicing this area for X amount of years. I'm a strong negotiator and I work on the behalf of all my sellers and my buyers, and I put 110% into what I do for them and things like that. Is that type of messaging that really reinstates the integrity of that person, their experience, and validates social proof that they've already have been through challenging markets. And so if you don't have that experience or whatever the case is, then what do you say and how do you market yourself today? Right.
Well, I would use market updates, right? Just sharing the information from the community, what's happening in the current market. I would share like the QR code, sharing the free home estimate, right? I would share the information that they're really curious about until I was able to build up my inventory.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, I believe, is just, the way that people talk about what they're really good at, right? So if I don't have that much years experience, I'm not going to really brag about that. But I might say things like, hey, I have a proven track record of this. My marketing plan to list a home and sell a home has been netting my sellers great results, things like that, right? Just little things that validate like the type of success that you're going to get when you hire that agent. And I think if you could put that content, whether if it's in like maybe like a subhead, maybe a tagline, maybe that's like your quote, whatever the case is, it's that type of stuff that makes that card unique, where now to get an in-depth preview of who you are a little bit. Like I can give you this top layer content messaging about all the stuff I do, but I also want to give you a sneak peek into a little bit about what I bring that's different from other people. And I know that we all share the same roles. We all do the same things per se to a certain extent, but I got to talk about what I'm good at. So let's say if like I'm a strong negotiator, I'm gonna put that on there. I want people to know that, but I'm gonna put it in a language that they're gonna make sense from it, right? So let's say, for example, I might say like, in a challenging market, you want to make sure you're working with an agent that has the the strongest negotiation skills. I mean, something like that, right? So they get an idea of like who you are, right?
Really
So
like brand image, if you will. So
yeah, it's like, it's like building that voice for you a little bit, but at the same time, speeding up, building up your reputation when you mention things like that. And the reason why I'm pointing that part of it out is because, let's say, for example, you're working in an area that's really competitive. You know that you're going to have to outmarket someone, not just on frequency, not just on messaging, but also on brand positioning, right? If you're good at something, whatever the case is, that's great. And I might not be able to compete with you because you've been in the business for a long time, but I could compete with you in a different way by identifying areas that I'm good at, right? So there needs to be a separation of competition and then value at the same time. So, if you put that on a card, you can display it in language, you can display it by highlighting one word. So imagine like sometimes you go on Yelp, you go on to like Zillow reviews, whatever the case is. A lot of the reviews, a lot of times nowadays, it's kind of like this. It's like excellent communicator, right? Every step of the way, right? And they're really headlining what that recommendation or the testimonial sounds like. So I want to get that information. I want to put it on a card. And that's another thing too. Once I do cards like that, whatever the case is, I generally try to get anyone, past clients, quotes, testimonials, recommendations, whatever the case is. And also when it comes to the marketing of that particular testimonial, whatever the case is, just don't use the word. And I used it a couple of times here, but I wouldn't use that word testimonial. I just would change that word to recommendation. So that it feels like, hey, your neighbor recommended you, your neighbor, instead of saying, here's a testimonial. I'm not in court. I don't need to testify anything. What I want to do is give you a recommendation and give you some, words of praise that talk about your service and stuff like that. So if I have that and you guys sold a lot of properties like that, put that onto that card. It's so valuable right now.
well, how soon after working with a client and closing on the property would you reach out for that recommendation?
Well, usually, I mean, I would preferably do it the minute that maybe a few days after it's closed, and after that everything's kind of settled down, that kind of thing, because they've been through like a lot of stress. And it's like asking to do something. They're probably at that moment, they're just so excited that it got closed, right? I'm ready to move on the next phase of my life. You know what I mean? Thank God the agent was great. And sometimes they'll write their own type of like recommendation, whatever the case is. But if they don't, ask them. It's okay to ask people. It's okay to ping someone and say, hey, go to Google and put a Google review about me, Oh, hey, I know that I'm also on these other areas, right? So sometimes you'd be surprised, but I see a lot of realtors that have comments on Yelp, you know? So
And I was just working with a mover and he literally just did that this morning. He was like, "Hey, huge request, favor from you. I work off referrals and the guys get tips from the owner for good reviews. Would you mind leaving a Google review when you get a free moment?" Right? I mean, it's like it was a text. Like that took what, 2 seconds? And I'm like, "Sure, what's the link?" And he's like, "Not a problem. Here's the link," and done. Like,
yeah, anytime you get social proof, those are the best things. And if you have more of these recommendations or, testimonials, any good word of like praise, I would find some way to put that in all my marketing pieces. Maybe I start like curating those testimonials and identify what is really good, whatever the case is that I like, I pull those. And then I would start using that as like a library content that I could constantly use. Like if I use a market update, fine, I'm going to put in a testimonial in there, a recommendation in there. If I could do it just sold, I definitely want some sort of recommendation from a seller, right? So if you could spend that time to ask for that, and now you have that powerful, paragraph of praise, whatever the case is, put that in that marketing. It says so much about your experience. It's like me not having to tell you what I do. It's like having another customer tell their experience about your services, and that's what really validates who you are,
that's
right?
just great that we're all looking for. That validation that I can trust that this person really is telling me the truth and I can trust them. Well, I love this, Chia. We're going to need to wrap it up for today because this is a really great, I think, message to share with everyone in our amazing Facebook group. But thank you so much for sharing. This was a lot of information, but I really feel it's useful. Is there anything you want to close out with?
Yeah, well, one, I just want to be able to, help businesses grow. I think right now there is a lot of hesitation in the market, and I think everyone needs a push every now and then, even if it's from someone like a coach or whatever the case is. I'm not saying I'm a coach. What I'm saying is that I see so much work that's being done today, way more positive than what the market actually feels like. And a lot of it too is just working with a lot of agents or you know, adjusting their business plan, their marketing plan, and things like that. And one of the things that we're doing here that I like is really observing what's going on in the market and then really coming up with product solutions or like marketing solutions, whatever the case is, to kind of bring that and let everyone know about it so that way they can start implementing that in their business. And I think that's what we want to do. You know, a lot of times when we talk about a lot of stuff about like the business, how to help realtors, at the end of the day, I think it's looking for ways to help them save time, finding, doing our own research, working with our own agents, testing different markets, and bringing that same product to life into other people's market to make their job easier. And so if we could do that for us, then I think we'd be creating tons of value for the agents that we work with. I also think at the end of the day that these guys would love to see what other people are doing so that that way, if something is effectively working in the market, they can implement that in their business today. And it's something that we want to continue to share. So I'm going to be doing more of this stuff, a lot more. We're going to be doing more products. We're showing off some products. We're going to be talking about strategies. I have so much stuff that I want to just get out of my head and just like let people know about. So you'll be seeing me literally putting together strategies about the perfect open house, signs get listings, how you should follow up, what you should follow up with, how to market, what's the best practice. If your budget is this much, try to go with this strategy. If you have a bigger existing brand, if you continue thinking about building your brand, well, here's another strategy to go after that. There's so much strategies that kind of go behind this stuff. It really depends of where you're at in your career, the level of business that you're doing, you know, what type of budget you have and what your business plan kind of looks like. You know, obviously we're going to talk about realistic goals. This is not kind of like wishful thinking, like, hey, let's set some reality into this whole thing and really get people to buy into some of the stuff because it works. And really, you know, I think if we create that value, present that strategy, then I know it's going to be effective for everyone. So, yeah, that's my closing. And we'll talk next time and we'll bring up more of these conversations. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. And so if anyone has any topics or anything that's really pressing on your mind or anything more, a little bit more urgent, please leave it in the comments below. We would love to talk about that the next time, but we'll be back soon.
Yep. All right.
Okay. Bye.